we're going to go ahead and start. And this is just a gentle stretch class. We're going to do a couple of little thigh stretches. If you have the half roller, then that's wonderful to do it with. And if you have a rolled up mat, that works as well. I don't have my half roller here, so I will cue how to do it with a half roller, but I will do it on my rolled up mat instead. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Make sure you have a stretching strap or a resistance band, something like that, and that half roller or a rolled up mat. If you don't have two mats, when we get to that part, you can just go ahead and roll up your mat, okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and come down onto the mat. Just hug those knees in toward the chest, rocking the hips side to side. And notice, are you having a hard time letting your low back relax into the mat? So ideally here, your low back muscles would be relaxing. In your mind's eye, your low back curve is flat. And, this feels nice and relaxing. Your ribs are down. Then we're going to go ahead and place one foot down and hug the other knee in. And we're just going to kind of pump that leg in maybe 5 or 6 times. If you're feeling pinching in the hip crease when you do this, then change the angle of your leg a little bit. You can go out to the side or go in, whatever feels better for you. We'll do this maybe 3 or 4 more times. And then we're going to go ahead and interlace the fingers behind the leg, and we're going to lengthen and bend that leg probably about 10 times. So let's go with 10 today. And then once you get it up there on the 10th time, you're going to circle your foot around at the ankle. See if you can move your toes too while you do this. Just maybe squishing them up, moving them around, and then we'll go the other direction. And then we'll bend that knee, take the hand onto the knee, and we're going to move the leg out and in. You can let that other knee sag out to the side as a counterbalance here. And we're going to keep that arm long. So imagine the thigh bone is upright in the hip joint. So it's straight up and down. And you're just kind of spinning it left and right. Just try to relax that leg and try to move it with your arm. Let's do this a couple more times. And then we're going to make a circle. Once again, try to use your arm, not your muscles in your hip. So try to relax the muscles in your hip. And then we'll go the other direction. So for me, the other direction really feels awkward. Couple more times. And then we're going to place that foot down and bring the other knee in. And we're going to go ahead and pump that leg in about 10 times. So try to keep the low back relaxed on the mat and the belly drawing in a little bit. So the only thing moving here is your leg and the hip joint. We're just trying to juice up that hip joint. And then we're going to reach that arm long and we're going to move it side to side. So imagine that ball at the end of your thigh bone is just kind of spinning left and right. The thigh bone goes left, the thigh bone goes right. And as your leg goes in toward the middle, the ball kind of spins to the outside and vice versa. 2 more times. And then we'll make those circles. So I didn't do the hamstring stretch. We'll do that next. And we'll go the other direction. Use your brain to try to get those muscles in your hip to relax, so that you can use your arm to move your leg. And then we're going to come back to the middle and we're going to lengthen and bend. So think about pushing your thigh into your hands as you lengthen, and then drawing the thigh bone toward you a little bit as you bend. Two more. And on the last one, you're going to hold it up there. You're going to make those circles with your foot. Try to move your toes too. Make sure you go both directions. And then we're going to hug both legs in. Let that low back relax into the mat. Notice, does it feel like your low back can relax into the mat more? So that might be related to the stress that's going on in your hips. And then I'm going to place my feet down and we're going to cross our hands across the chest. Now, I'm hugging my hands around toward the back, but if that doesn't work for you, you can hold on to your shoulders. Either elbow on top is fine. And we're going to rock the rib cage left and right, giving that rib cage a little massage on the mat, trying to keep those hips as still as possible. So we're not lifting up. Just giving my rib cage a little massage, getting it moving. And then we're going to come back to the middle and take a breath in. So imagine your chest lifting toward your elbows, and then you're going to exhale and then lift your elbows up toward the sky as you sink your ribs down into the mat. So it's just an opposition. My elbows aren't really lifting anymore. Breathe in and breathe out. Let your ribs sink down in between your shoulder blades. One more time. And we're going to reach the arms out to the sides with the palms facing up. Just find a place for your arms on this angle where it feels like you have a stretch in the bicep across the front of the shoulder. It doesn't have to feel like a huge stretch. Now, without doing anything else, nice and slowly turn the head to the right, reaching for your left fingertips, and then wiggle them around a little bit. And then come back to the middle, and we're going to do the other side, turning your head to the left, reaching through your right fingertips, and then giving them a little wiggle. And then come back to the middle, turning right. This time we're going to flip the fingertips up toward the sky and let the palm go back down. So the palm flips toward the chest and back down 3 or 4 times. It's called nerve flossing. Over to the other side. You can see it better here. And then come back to the middle. And we're going to roll over onto the side and then come on up to seated. And we're going to come on to all fours and do a little cat and cow. So my knees under my hips, my wrists underneath my shoulders, pressing all 10 fingers into the mat. The first thing we're going to do is kind of slide the legs in and out. So this is external rotation and a little internal rotation of those thigh bones. As long as this feels okay for your knees. And then we're going to tuck those toes. Really tuck those toes, press them into the ground like you're planting them in the floor. And then sit your hips back, trying to keep your spine long, and then come forward. Loosening up those shoulders. Moving through the knees and the hips, the shoulders, the toes are getting a nice stretch here. So imagine pushing the mat away as you sit back toward your heels. Whatever range of motion feels good for you. The most important thing is you're keeping your spine nice and neutral. Now I'll do a couple more. Focus on your shoulder blades. When you come back toward your hips, the shoulder blades lift, the bottom tip of your shoulder blades lifts out and up. And when you come forward, the bottom tip of your shoulder blades goes down and in. There's a little rotation. And then we're going to come back to all fours. You can untuck the toes if you want. And then we're going to do a little cat and cow, little tiny cat and cow, little. Now lead this movement with your pelvis. So draw that belly in and up, tuck that tail, maybe squeeze those bum cheeks a little. See if you can get most of the movement from your pelvis and your low back. This time, stay here in your tuck. Now keep your spine nice and still and just untuck your tail and tuck it. Untuck and tuck it. Now this might not be doable for you. Let's get as close as you can. And then make that cat and cow at whatever size feels comfortable for you. Whatever speed feels good for you. One more. Then we're going to shift the hips left and right. Once again, as long as this feels okay for your knees, your toes can be tucked or untucked. And then we're going to sit the hips back toward the right heel and then shoot toward the left hand like you're going on a diagonal. And then we'll do that a couple times over toward the left heel. If your hips are really tight, then it might not feel like you're going very far past the middle. That's okay. And then come back to the middle. Let's do another cat and cow. See if it feels a little smoother for you. We're going to reach right leg back, cross it over so that's the other side of the mat. And then take a breath in and breathe out. Side bend to the left, looking down toward that end of the mat near the foot. Breathe into your right side. Keep pressing into both hands equally. And then come back to the middle. We'll switch sides. Reach left leg back. And then cross it over. And then you're going to side bend over to the right. Thinking about that left hip going over to the left. And you side bend to the right. Take a couple breaths here. One more breath. And then we're going to do the cat and cow again. Just noticing you feel like you're moving a little more freely. Sitting back toward the heels into a child's pose. Go ahead and let that head rest down if that feels okay for you. I'm just going to hold my head up so you can hear me. And the first breath, take in. Go ahead and think about spreading across the upper back between the armpits. Breathe in. And breathe out. One more time. Breathe into the back body. And breathe out. This time, we're going to think about breathing all the way down into the pelvis. So this is where my focus is going to be. I want to change the shape of this. Let it get wider. Breathe in. Breathe out. So I'm really stiff right down here. I really feel this stretch. It just should feel like a gentle stretch. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe into the back of that pelvis one more time. And breathe out. This time we're going to roll up the mat, or we're going to use that half roller. So I'm going to roll up my mat. Make sure it's rolled pretty evenly. And then you're going to lay down on the mat, lay down on the floor, and the half roller flat side up, or the mat is going to go underneath the flat part of the back of your pelvis. Just find a comfortable spot for it. It's not in your low back curve, it's lower than that, okay? And exhale breath, place your hands onto your ribs, and then exhale breath. Let your ribs drop down toward the floor between your shoulder blades. Place your hands onto your chest, breathe in. Breathe out, let those ribs sink down. Stay here with the ribs sinking down. Bring right leg to tabletop. And then we're going to hug it in toward the chest. Breathe in. Breathe out. The ribs sink down. You're going to hug that knee in. And as you do, you're going to reach through the end of that other knee. Trying to get a little stretch through the front of this hip. Breathe in. Both hips stay equally weighted. Breathe out. The ribs sink down, the belly draws in and up, the tail tucks. One more time, breathe in, breathe out. Placing that foot down, switching sides. Equal weight on both hips. Breathe in, breathe out. Sink those ribs down between the shoulder blades. The elbows are angled toward the opposite sides of the room. And then you're going to exhale. Hug that knee in a little closer as you tuck your tail and reach through the end of the other knee. Breathe in, breathe out. This time we're going to hug the right knee in and let the left leg lengthen onto the floor. Breathe in, breathe out. Drop the ribs down. Let the shoulder blades spread away from each other. And then hug that right knee in a little closer. Make sure you're tucking that tail so you're not arching your back and popping your ribs. One more breath here. And then we're going to switch sides. If that created strain in your low back, then switch to the first one that we did. Exhale, breath. Tuck the tail, draw that belly in and up, and then lengthen that right leg. Breathe in, breathe out, sink those ribs down even more, draw that belly in and up even more. Let that right leg relax toward the floor. And then we're going to go ahead and place that down. Hopefully you have your stretching strap or your stretchy band somewhere near where you can grab it. All right, so your hips are still on that prop. And then we're going to take the left foot into the band. You might need to lift your head and shoulders to reach your foot. That's okay. And I'm going to have the band in the middle of my foot. Holding on to it with some tension with both hands, and then I'm going to lengthen and bend a couple times. And then the last, I'm gonna lengthen, I'm gonna push my thigh away as I lengthen. My foot's relaxed, it's not pointed or flexed. And then I'm gonna keep that foot relaxed as I reach my heel up toward the sky, bringing that leg in until I feel a stretch in the back of that thigh. Make sure your ribs didn't pop up like mine did, so keep those ribs down. And then once you feel that gentle stretch, you're gonna stay there. Think about plugging that thigh bone down into the hip joint. You're pulling it down toward the prop, and you're reaching your heel up at the same time. And then we're gonna turn that leg out to the side. So I'm gonna external rotation, my kneecap and my toes are turned out. I'm gonna let it cross over the middle, just about to the middle, keeping my left hip down. I'm gonna let my right knee sag in toward the middle as well. Continue plugging that thigh bone down into the hip joint as you reach through the heel. And then bend and straighten that leg a couple times, so let that go. And we'll switch sides. So you get a little outer hip stretch after you get that hamstring stretch. All right, so bend that knee in, exhale breath, the ribs down toward the floor, the belly in, and then push that thigh bone away from you to straighten that leg. One more time. Bring it down on more of a diagonal. You can have it nice and straight in line with your hip, and then nice and slowly you're gonna float it up until you feel that gentle stretch in the back of your leg without tucking your tail. Plugging the thigh bone down, reaching the heel up. Let the ribs sink down, don't let them pop up. Let the back of the pelvis be heavy on the prop. Don't tuck the pelvis here. And I'm going to externally rotate, kneecaps and toes turn out. Nice and slowly, I'm going to let that leg float over. Keeping my right hip down, I'm going to let my left hip drop in toward the middle. Ribs are down, belly is in, both hips are weighted. Reaching through the heel, plugging that thigh bone down like you're. And then we're going to bend and straighten a couple times and let that go. And then let's go ahead and place the band aside. Come on off your prop. And then roll over onto your side. We'll do that cat and cow again. So it's just kind of using the cat and cow as a little assessment. Sorry, the mat's black, my clothes are black. All right, so go ahead and come into that cat and cow and notice, does it feel like everything's moving a little more freely? You can use a breath here. Remember, lead the movement with your pelvis. And then sit back toward your heels. Breathe into the back of the pelvis. So imagine the breath going all the way down there. That's where you're going to focus the movement from the breath. So let it go. Let it stretch out to the sides as you breathe in and breathe out. One more time. And come on up to seated. Come into crisscross if that feels okay with you. Reach the arms up, breathe in, rotate the palms, press the arms down. One more time, reach up, rotate, press down. Thank you for joining me for this Zoom stretch. So it's on Zoom and it's a quick full body stretch. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel better now than when you joined me.